Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Fantastic. So let's kick it off. I would like to welcome Ivaila today from Paper Ventures. Just a quick introduction about our spaces. We are doing the regular spaces now to highlight the Web3 leaders based in Portugal. I imagine this is our fourth space so far. ICP Hub is now based in Portugal as well as in other different locations in Europe and in the world. And our goal is to nurture the Web3 ecosystem here. So what we do a lot of programs, a lot of support and events for startups, for developers, and yeah, so one of the big initiatives that we have these days is our hackathon that is starting on the 1st of July. Please make sure you join us if you're a developer. It's a great opportunity to test the ICP technology. And we also have an accelerator that is launched for applications. So if you're a startup, you can apply and get lots of support, including fundraising, including investments, including MVP building in blockchain, which is really hard, as you know, because it's hard to find developers. But yeah, so without further ado, I would love to invite Ivailo on stage. Thank you so much for joining us
You're welcome. Thanks
today.
for having me.
So Ivailo was already our guest at Crypto Mondays at our investor panel here in Lisbon, and we heard a little bit of your story, Ivailo, already. But please tell us more for our listeners right now at X Spaces. We would love to know, how did you become a VC, and what's your story? Tell us.
Uh, it's a long story. I guess I moved to London in 2000. I grew up in Johannesburg in South Africa, and when I moved to London, I joined a very early stage startup in the ed tech space. My background is technical, computer science, and applied mathematics. And so I joined as a head of development at a very early stage startup, which we grew kind of from sort of the 7 people that the company was when I joined to sort of 280 people across Europe. And we sold it in 2003, 2004 to a US based Nasdaq listed company. And that was it. I was basically bitten by the entrepreneur bug and the startup bug. And so since then, I kind of spent the next 16 years building companies to various degrees of success. Some of them are still running without me. Some of them went under. Lots of experiments didn't work out, and one we actually sold. And so when we sold the last company, I basically had a choice of either starting something new or looking at the investment side. I've been angel investing for quite a long time, so I thought I'll probably join the investment side. And lucky for me, two good friends of mine were starting a new fund. Actually, that was their second fund, but they were just raising it and starting to deploy out of it in London, called 7% Ventures. And so I joined them as the third partner in the fund. I spent 2 years investing with them. The fund was actually traditional investing rather than anything to do with crypto. It was quite focused on deep tech. So we did a lot of investing in sort of AI, quantum computing, things like that. But I was ultimately wanting to do something in crypto. And so I left at the end of 2021 to basically just focus on investing out of my kind of on my own as an angel. And then a year ago, the other two founders of Paper Ventures called me up and they said, "Hey, we're starting Paper Ventures. It's an early stage fund. Do you want to join us?" And I joined Paper that way.
Amazing. So yeah, so what a journey, really fascinating, and lots of success previously as well. And this is already your second VC fund, which is great. I mean, impressive. So what emerging trends in the Web3 space do you believe will be promising for investment over
Y-
the next few years? What do you think?
You know, we actually stay open-minded. We try to understand ahead of time what's going to happen in the space. I think the emerging trends, the things that are going to be the most interesting use cases, are not properly yet known today. As in, we obviously have what we have today, and the space tends to kind of create these narratives, and everybody starts investing in these narratives and things like that. You know, we try to stay flexible, which is why we are, you know, Paper Ventures is a generalist fund. We don't have a particular area, particular sector, purely because we think that by the time something becomes a narrative, it's too late for an early stage investment fund to be investing in it. So we stay flexible. If I'm to name a few things that we're obviously monitoring very closely, that are already kind of out there in the space, you know, we're quite interested in kind of the areas of where gaming meets gambling and sort of everything around there. Obviously, one of my partners is an ex-professional poker player, so he understands that world incredibly well. I still think that one of the main use cases for crypto remains DeFi. I think the initial things that we saw built in DeFi were interesting. I think we're now going through a little bit of a evolutionary process. You know, if you think about how DeFi developed, there was nothing, and all of a sudden there was a lot of innovation, which was sort of, you know, the AMMs, the Uniswaps of the world, then all the lending pools and all of that. That felt quite revolutionary. And then since then, we've sort of, I feel like, of course, apart from some innovation that's come in, we've sort of become a little bit more evolutionary, where people are just improving on existing things. But I certainly expect that we're going to get like a major new step up in a way that we maybe are not fully expecting today. So definitely keeping an eye on that. Um, Anything that has to do with consumer is very interesting. Of course, you know, just pure gaming is quite interesting. We still, you know, we saw the first iteration with that, with the play to earn and the kind of the grinding to make some income. I think with the next iteration is going to be much more engaging games, and of course platforms that have significant distribution, like Telegram, for example. You know, we're obviously monitoring that quite closely. So there's a lot going on, but we are staying flexible just to make sure that we are on top of things and always aware of what's coming next.
Yeah, definitely. We see also quite a lot of gaming Web3 companies propositions, but also infrastructure, like in general, tools for blockchain and for developers, and to make different protocols more effective and more secure and so on. Particularly also AI seems to be like a theme in this summer or in the last couple of months. A healthy plug here. We actually do a lot of stuff around AI. Our next Crypto Mondays is going to be AI and Web3. So if you guys in Lisbon, watch this space. Yeah, but I'm really curious about Ivailo's process, about you guys. How do you consider startups? What do you evaluate in early stage Web3 startups for potential investments? And if it's different do you think it's different actually from Web2 startups as well? Because obviously it's like team, technology, but yeah, I would love to hear.
Um, I mean, I don't think it's super different. I guess the main things, of course, are always the team, right? Are these people going to be able to build something big? You know, one of the areas we always try to understand is, are the founders going to take an early exit, right? And in Web3, it's even more prominent because, you know, like tokens do become live, tradable, and then, you know, sometimes these guys are sitting on, you know, millions individually, and so are they interested in building something big? Are they interested in building $1 billion company, or are they interested in sort of taking 10 million and moving on to the next thing? And that's always difficult to assess because, you know, and the same as with traditional investing, it's just that the liquidity isn't as readily available, you know, like, but it's always been the same. Like, are these founders going to take an early exit? You know, if they build something and then, you know, Amazon or Google comes over and puts 200 million on the table and they still all own 50-60% of the company, are they going to take that exit? And often you can't blame them, right? I mean, it's a majorly life-changing amount, but really, ultimately the best investments are in people that are actually willing to basically build a multi-billion-dollar company, take it all the way to the next level. So always trying to evaluate sort of what is the appetite of the founder, how crazy are they, how hungry are they, and things like that. A lot of early stage VCs will tell you that they look for founders building things in large markets. Our view rather is that if the market is already large, then it's too late in a sense. So the more interesting thing is founders that can imagine creating a market. And of course, a good example of that from the traditional world is something like Airbnb, where there was no market for anybody renting their homes or anything like that. And then of course, that proved that this founding team can basically create this market and effectively own it and navigate it. And so it's always, the interesting thing is always to understand like what is that's not there can become there, and are these the founders that can actually make it happen. The other things we look, of course, on the founder side is, can they build a team? There's some incredibly smart founders out there, but when it comes to building a team, you have to have certain qualities, right, to be able to attract the right people to follow you, to basically take a big risk on an early stage company and things like that. So are these founders going to be able to build a team outside of maybe when we see them, they like 5 people, 7 people or whatever, but can they build a 30 people team? Can they build a 50 people team and more, of course? And then of course we always try to assess if there's what is the level of technical risk, and are we willing to take the technical risk on, right? So with certain categories you have to take technical risks. So you mentioned AI. A lot of the most exciting companies in AI, of course, still carry a lot of technical risk, right? So i.e. the final proposition may just never happen because there will be problems that maybe cannot be solved, and ultimately what the founders want to build isn't going to be in fact deliverable. So are these founders that have the grit to iterate, are they well capitalized to be able to iterate and find ultimately what tends to work? So really at the early stages is very much about the team, because there's not a lot more to go by.
Yeah, super interesting. So many things to discuss here, but not enough time. I'm actually super excited to learn about what do you think the biggest challenges and risk are within the early stage Web3 companies. And if you have any advice for startups to navigate them. You mentioned already the technology. I think this is super legit.
Yeah.
Via, like, I guess it's security, right? But I'd love to hear your opinion.
I mean, look, it's as with every space, I think what we see often happen is founders are misaligned. So one of the founders wants to build a multi-billion-dollar company, the other one wants to walk away with 10 million. And I think both of them are fair enough. But I think when you get a misalignment like that is when you start to see problems as the company starts to grow, and then founder separations and all of that kind of stuff. So I guess the advice on that area would be to really get to know your co-founder and make sure you're doing things that you're both interested in kind of achieving, rather than the one person having a different ambition to the other person. I think it's especially in the Web3 space where you have liquidity earlier on. If you have a founder that is incredibly instrumental to the creation of something large, but then they decide to take an early exit and sell their tokens the moment they're vested, and then go and sit on a yacht somewhere. Again, nothing against that, but if the other founder is expecting to build a large company and actually wants to work for the next 5-10 years, then that misalignment causes a lot of friction at the wrong time. So really kind of getting to know your co-founders, getting to know what they want, like really setting up the culture of the company. The other thing that we see in the space is, in traditional venture, in traditional company building, there's been a lot there's been said about building company culture and making sure that everybody's aligned and everything like that. I think in the Web3 space, that's a little bit overlooked. I think not a lot of people are kind of aware of how building the right culture from the very beginning can make this into a very large company, very large project. And so, we always try to understand kind of what is the culture, how does it fit with the one founder, the other founder, the early management team, and things like that. And then, of course, security. You can't overlook that in our space. I think the main thing really is to ensure that you do everything possible, right? Of course, you can't guarantee that there's not going to be exploits or whatever, but making sure you work with the right auditing firm, that you hire the right people, that you do enough sort of background checking and vetting. We've seen a lot of cases where, the vulnerabilities are driven by the team versus, by the code or whatever. So yeah, those are the main areas, I guess.
We had a fantastic session last time with Dima Budorin from Haken. I'm sure you met Dima as well. He's doing a great job with his company, making sure all the Web3 companies and blockchain protocols and are secured. So yeah, we had lots of tips from him. Yeah, I picked up what you mentioned about a big market, and I noticed that some VCs, maybe in Web2 space more than Web3, but they also focus on niche. And I think on Web2, it was more the case because such a big proposition already of everything really there. And it's good to have an expertise of a VC who actually can understand the industry really well. And so, yeah, I know that some VCs are doing this. So they want to invest in a specific niche market. Like I used to work in fashion, for example, fashion innovation in my career a lot. And yeah, quite a lot of VC focus on that space, just retail innovation and things like that. But particularly about you, I'm interested about Paper Ventures to know if you provide any support and resources, a part of capital, and maybe you can also mention like how big are your tickets, and yeah, I think it's interesting to hear if you also give some other support to startups and Web3 companies in this ecosystem.
Yeah. So there's a couple of areas where we certainly get quite involved. On the one hand is helping the founders construct the right cap table. Every company needs different things at every stage, right? There's a lot of funds out there which will promise a lot and deliver nothing. And there's also a lot of funds out there that will promise nothing and deliver a lot and be very helpful and instrumental to the success of a company. The benefit we have is that as the three partners of Paper Ventures, we've co-invested with most funds out there, so we kind of know exactly what they're good at, what they're maybe not so good at, and what would they deliver, what they would under deliver on. So we try to help the company structure the cap table in such a way that they can get support on all the different levels where they would need support. And we'd be the first ones to say that if they need support in areas where we can help, we'll be the first ones to say, look, we're not going to be able to assist with this areas, or in some cases even walk away on a deal because we're not the right fund for them. So really trying to help them structure the right table, because what happens in Web3 is the market kind of obviously is a boom bust kind of a cycle market. So every time there's a bull market, everybody's trying to invest into everything, and there's a lot of sort of money chasing every deal. And of course, when the market is a bit bearish, people tend to lose interest a lot, and that's the real time where you need to be supporting your company. So that's incredibly important to construct the right cap table from the very beginning. The next area where we get quite involved in is around business development. My partners and I, we've been investing in this space for probably an average of over 10 years each. So we are very connected across the ecosystem. So a lot of the companies we're already invested in, a bunch of the companies we've spoken, maybe we didn't invest, and anybody that we don't know, we're probably 1 degree of separation from. And so, when it comes time to business development, that's where we get quite involved at helping open whatever door the founders want. My partner Oliver's background is obviously professional poker, so we get quite involved around game mechanics, tokenomics, that kind of stuff, if they need that help. And of course, when it comes time for the next funding round, we work a lot with all of the funds that are in the industry, especially the later stage funds. So we basically can walk them into whichever fund they wanna talk to, and help them kind of get the next round going. And then ultimately as well, helping with sort of introductions to market makers, exchanges, that kind of stuff, because we've been in the industry for quite a long time. As LPs, we have a number of these players. Personally, we've invested in a number of these players. So, kind of helping with that stuff. We know what we're good at and we know what we're not good at. We don't like to waste the founders' time. If they say this is what we need and we can't do it, we'll just tell them. but ideally can connect them to somebody that can in fact help with those areas.
It's interesting what you mentioned about your co-founder, because I met a few Web3 VCs who have backgrounds of poker players. It's a fun fact, but I think it's interesting to know. I think it's connected to the risk appetite, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so I guess my question also is around. I don't know actually if you mentioned already. What are your minimum tickets? How do you guys invest?
Yeah, so our ticket size is a pretty kind of fixed. We typically invest between 350 and 500K. We like to be first money in or as close to first money in as possible. Our preference is to kind of back companies in the pre-seed stages, and if not pre-seed, then seed. We like that early stage risk. We like to roll up our hands and work with the sleeves. I mean, and work with the founders and help them in those very early stages. We're very comfortable taking the early stage risk. And yeah, so typically 350 to 500, depending on whether we're leading or following. Our preference is for leading or co-leading, but we are in fact flexible if the opportunity is to just follow into a round. The most important thing for us is the construction of the cap table. We like to see at the early stages, a very relevant cap table constructed, so that the companies can have as much support as they need. And of course, in the early stages, they need a lot of support. So the cap table is the most important thing for us, how it's constructed.
Okay, got it. Understood. And did you have any companies that you invested in are based in Portugal at all?
I don't think we have companies that are, sort of incorporating in Portugal, but we do have certainly companies which we invested in, which the founders are based in Portugal. Part of the teams are based in Portugal. Because obviously it's quite a popular place for people to build companies out of. So, for example, there's an NFT lending platform called Zarta. It wasn't a paper ventures investment. I did it through Spaceship, which is an investment DAO. But the founder is based in Portugal. He's a very good friend of mine now. We hang out quite a lot. So yeah, I mean, we obviously prefer the company to be structured in a way that is suitable for what they need to do. So not to be kind of subject to any unexpected changes of legislation or whatever when it comes to tokens and all that kind of stuff. And that currently tends to drive a lot of these companies to incorporate in the sort of the BVI, Caymans, Panama, those areas more than anything else. But a lot of teams were obviously based in Portugal, working out of here.
This is so true. So many partners or founders with the families are here, but yeah, but not necessarily incorporated in Portugal. But I wonder, what do you think about the potential of this Web3 ecosystem? Because it feels like it's growing nonstop, and obviously it's like one of the leading hubs in Web3 in Europe, at least. Yeah, so what are you thinking? Do you believe it's gonna grow more? Like, any thoughts are welcome.
I really think Portugal has an incredible opportunity to capture the position of a kind of a hub in Europe for this, because Portugal obviously is such an amazing place. You've got everything. You've got incredible food. You've got incredible climate. You've got views everywhere you look. So I think it's such an attractive place for people to come and build companies out of here, that I think the opportunity is theirs essentially. And I think by doing the right things, not making the kind of the tax systems too complicated, and I think at the moment they're pretty friendly. Um, trying to attract these kind of people, allowing for technologists to come in here with sort of not a lot of difficulties around the immigration process, the visas and stuff like that. I think that the position is open for them to kind of win and hold over and above other places in Europe.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. I think I'm absolutely bullish about Portugal, and it has so much potential to grow as well. So we have a bit more time, and I wonder if anyone from the audience have questions as well. Maybe you can raise a hand and we can ask Vilo. Um, Let me see. I don't see anyone. No, no volunteers. Ah, yes, there is a request. Let's see. Liquid Ace. Go ahead, you can ask. You can speak now. Maybe you need to unmute yourself.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Hey,
hear
what's up?
you. What's your name and where are you
I'm
based?
based in Lisbon. Don't want to reveal my name, but
Okay.
yeah, this first time I see the ICP hub in Portugal, so happy to see there's more guys around. I heard you talk about Cortesão and Value. I know him pretty well, so glad you know Zarth as well. I just wanted to understand. Maybe I know you guys invested in Renzo and a few other LRTs, maybe. So wanted to understand your V1 restaking and what does the future hold for that. And thank you for the time, guys.
Yeah, I mean we're quite bullish on restaking. We think that the kind of the paradigm makes a lot of sense. Is with everything, we saw the earlier players. What we're seeing now is that because it's become a bit of a hot topic, everybody's trying to build something in restaking. So it's become a little bit of a noisy space. I think we now have more restaking startups building in the space than is needed ultimately, or that can basically be accommodated by people building that require the services. But it certainly is an interesting paradigm. I think expanding the ecosystem in this way makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Thank you. And maybe a last question, if I have some time. Like, what are you most bullish on for the nearest future? So, which narratives are you playing out? What are your eyes on? I don't know if you guys discussed this. I came a bit late to the space.
Yeah, we
We did actually, yeah.
we touched
But
upon it a little bit. What I was kind of, I guess, saying is that we try to stay open-minded. I think when something becomes a narrative and everybody's investing in it, we consider it a little bit late for us to be coming in. So we are always trying to kind of stay a little bit ahead and seeing what are the new things that they're forming. You know, I think that the big use cases that will come up and will be the next kind of billion-dollar companies and kind of winning propositions are not yet known to us for the time being. But from the existing ones, what I was saying is we really like gaming, but we actually specifically really like the intersection of gaming and gambling and how that can develop. I was saying that I'm expecting DeFi to have a bit of a resurgence. I think DeFi is a very natural use case for crypto. We saw a lot of innovation happen, and then sort of the excitement sort of quietened down a little bit, and then we've seen a lot of incremental um, innovation, but nothing revolutionary for now. But I do think that there's a lot of very smart builders building in the space. So we certainly expect for us to see again a resurgence of DeFi in a kind of a much more sustainable way this time.
Awesome. That was it. Cheers, guys. Thank you for the space.
thank you for the question. And so we don't have any more time for questions anymore, but I'd love to thank Ivailo for joining us today. It was super interesting, very, very informative, and I'm sure a lot of value for our listeners. So thank you, Ivailo, for your time.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure, all our pleasure. And I'd like to just mention that if you guys are going to ETHCC, we actually have currently Ideathon running online. You can win amazing prizes, particularly if you are AI or deepin idea. You can apply a part of that in Lisbon. We're gonna start a hackathon on the 1st of July. For 2 weeks, you can hack and develop your idea into the prototype, actually. So what can be better than that if you're a startup? If you don't have a product yet, I think it's awesome opportunity to find developers. So yeah, please make sure you know about it. You apply. It's all on our Twitter handle. If you go to ICP Hub Portugal, you can see all the information there. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and I will see you next time, hopefully next week already. So thanks, guys. Have a lovely Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Viola. Bye.